Hello, and welcome to a ConsoleCole review. I originally started this channel just for fun, so we'll see how many of these reviews I make. But first things first, I want to talk about one of my favorite video games of all time, UN Squadron for the Super Nintendo. Created by Capcom, it originally was an arcade game that was ported to the Super Nintendo. I've played the actual arcade cabinet, and this port is one of the closest arcade experiences you could have gotten during the time, other than what Neo Geo offered, but that was Neo Geo's niche, the arcade experience. I do have this World Championship controller that uses a joystick and those arcade buttons for an authentic experience, but the controller unfortunately stopped working for me, which sucks because it was a fun controller to use, even with other games. The Super Nintendo port dropped a simultaneous 2-player from the arcade, which would have been a nice addition, but I don't believe it tarnishes from the overall quality of the game. It's a side-scrolling shooter, and while there are a ton of those for the early Nintendo consoles, it does more things right than wrong. First off, I like the map screen to select stages. You don't have total freedom like in Mega Man, also made by Capcom, but at least you can select stages you're the most prepared for. I don't know who this guy is with the cross on his forehead, but I like him. He's cool. After the map screen is the store, where you can purchase other planes and weapons. This is where at least a little bit of strategy comes into play, where you need to buy the right stuff to be adequately equipped, which basically comes from trial and error. Like I said, it's an arcade game. Then there's the shooting mechanic. It isn't an automatic gun where you can be super cheap and just start spraying enemies as they appear on screen, but it isn't single shot where you need a turbo controller or sacrifice your thumbs. It's this weird 6-round burst thing. I don't know, but it works for me. The levels are lively and have textures to fly behind and in front of, which just adds to the experience. The bosses also deserve mention for their creativity. They either have heat-seeking missiles, which I'll touch on that in a little bit, or they bombard the screen with other projectiles. But that makes it all the more satisfying when you finally beat them. There's obviously planes to take down, but there's also a boat, a huge tank thing, a base. They get pretty varied with their own weaknesses. While that stuff certainly makes for a good game, my favorite part is the soundtrack. It kicks ass. With a distinguished developer like Capcom, you expect the soundtrack to be good, but this is one of the best 16-bit soundtracks I've experienced. I even recorded some of the songs from the sound test, not just for this video, but from before when I was just jamming out to it. I mean, you can't tell me this doesn't rock. But obviously if this game was perfect, it certainly would have gotten more attention. As with most retro games, it is relentlessly hard. I've been trying to beat this game for 2 decades and I can't even beat the second to last level. Granted, it's an arcade port, so it was originally designed to eat quarters, but it's still frustrating that most of the game just takes trial and error. You could put 2 hours into one run and still not accomplish anything. There is an easy mode, but what kind of accomplishment is that? They do give you 3 continues and are very generous with the extra lives, such as when you hit 30,000, 100,000, and 250,000 points, you get another life. Because we all know how important the score is on a home console, right? Right? Nobody cares. But some levels are so hard that you burn through all your lives repeating the same level over and over, seemingly find new ways to die. I probably spent over 10 lives a playthrough on the second to last level, and I still haven't been close. And those heat-seeking missiles are from hell. Why are there so many of them sometimes? You're dodging planes, projectiles, and then you have to avoid those damn missiles that follow you? Capcom sure knows how to aggravate players. Another thing I haven't touched on are the truck levels. They just present themselves whenever they feel like. I get that they're there to rack up more points for extra lives, but it feels like it's just a minigame that delays the inevitable of playing the next level. I mean, you don't have to play them, but you need the extra lives to burn through on the harder levels. So are they really optional? No, not really. I also feel like you're supposed to buy bombs to do the truck missions, but you can just plow through it with post-hit invincibility, which just adds to these levels' monotony. I said this was my favorite Super Nintendo game. I didn't say it was the best, but it'll always have a place in my video game heart. This concludes my first review and I hope you enjoyed it. I wish I could have showed the ending, but I have to stop sucking at it first, because easy mode just isn't an option. Anyway, thanks for watching.